coal train is symbolic of much of the dilemma of Appalachia. Until very recently, the companies that mined the coal owned all the mining communities. They owned the mines themselves, the tipples, the company towns, the streets, the houses, the stores, the commissaries, the hotels, the hospitals. They even had their own brand of money, scrip, which circulated only in company commissaries and stores. This created a population that was totally dependent, and the dependency lasted for more than 40 years. Abruptly, a few years ago, the company no longer needed its mining men. It needed mining machines. So the company withdrew its paternalism in each of the mining valleys. Millions, hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars worth of coal have gone out of these valleys. Appalachia has produced essentially two crops of people, the rich who have followed the coal and the poor who have stayed here in the Appalachian Valley.
Harry Caldwell was a lawyer in the giant coal mining area that stretched across the Cumberland Mountains in Appalachia. He had spent his life representing the miners, taking on and fighting those who owned the mines. But now he had realized that something fundamental was happening. The power of the miners all around him was beginning to dissolve and collapse. He wrote a book called Night Comes to the Cumberlands. He described how coal had not only brought wealth and power to those who owned the mines, but also to the miners themselves. It gave them power because it brought thousands of them together, and together they could block the coal from leaving the valleys. It gave them enormous collective power, out of which organised labour had come. For 40 years they had mounted strikes and blockades, and fought violent battles with the private armies of the mine owners. And out of that had come strong leaders, who had used the collective power to change society for the better.
In 1946, the United Mine Workers of America, under the leadership of John L. Lewis, who is generally regarded as the greatest labor statesman in American history, undertook to raise the medical standards of this area. Lewis, in a very dramatic confrontation with the American coal operators at Pittsburgh, "You have," he said, "made dead more than 500,000 of your fellow citizens. The product you sell in the markets of the world is drenched with the blood of your workmen. It is salted with the tears of their widows and their orphans." And he said, "Beginning today, beginning immediately, and at this bargaining table, you will begin to redress this old injustice." The United Mine Workers Health and Welfare Fund came into existence the following year. It was comparable in many respects to the National Health Service in Great Britain.
But now, Cordell realised that that power had gone. First the machines had come and replaced thousands of workers. Helpless to save their jobs, they now lived in growing poverty, supported only by welfare. And then there was the other fossil fuel, oil. Oil was now rising up to replace coal, and more of it came from the Middle East. In countries like Saudi Arabia, the Western oil companies had created their own managed communities. But these communities were for the managers, who lived a dreamlike existence in the middle of the desert. Their golf courses created by rolling crude oil into the sand, while the workers were controlled by authoritarian governments. They were no threat. And across the world, the oil industry was a scattered, diffused network, where there was never any chance of enough workers coming together to create a critical mass, out of which would come collective action.